Leonardo da Vinci is perhaps best known for his painting of a lady with a mysterious smile. But what many people don't know is that without his knowledge of human anatomy, the Mona Lisa might look very different, or more likely, it might not even exist. The great artist was once told to think of the human body like a building. This advice would end up being one of the foundations of his success, allowing him to create some of the most famous pieces of art in history. So who gave this advice, and how did it help Leonardo become the most talented human in history? First, let's start with the man himself. Leonardo da Vinci, a Florentine painter, sculptor, architect, scientist, musician, mathematician, engineer, and inventor. Although, throughout history, there have been people who excelled at multiple things, Leonardo da Vinci stands out due to the sheer amount of effort he put into everything he tried. With over 13,000 pages of notes, drawings, and studies, the man truly left nothing behind that we can find. One of the main reasons for Leonardo's success came from a young age, when he began his training as a painter under the famous Verrocchio. It's here that his love of science really begins to take shape. According to Vasari, he was so fascinated by a human arm that he dissected one just to see how it worked. This fascination with the way things work allowed him to be one of the best engineers of his time. But it was his understanding of the human form that made him one of the greatest artists of all time. So how did he do it? Well, according to the great Renaissance polymath, Leon Battista Alberti, the key to making perfect art is starting with the insides of the human body and working outwards. In fact, he specifically wrote about the importance of knowing how to draw the human figure with a detailed explanation of the internal organs. That's right, he suggested starting from the lungs and diaphragm, before moving on to the muscles, as Alberti believed it was important to know how the body works to depict the human form accurately. He said, "He who would represent the human body must know the hidden structure within, for nothing can appear unless it comes into existence within." This concept of understanding the inner workings of something is still taught today and has helped countless artists capture the human form accurately and convincingly. Leonardo clearly took this advice to heart and used it to inform his own art. His notebooks contain hundreds of pages dedicated to human anatomy, including detailed descriptions of muscles, bones, and other internal organs. By studying these structures and how they interact, Leonardo was able to create incredibly realistic and lifelike depictions of the human body. In fact, some of his anatomical drawings are still considered to be among the most accurate ever created. But why listen to an obscure priest when you could just go straight to the source? Well, because Leonardo wasn't exactly lacking in ways to learn about human anatomy. In fact, he went ahead and did what he does best, which was to dissect human bodies to understand how they worked. For Leonardo, art wasn't just about copying what he saw. Instead, he wanted to understand the underlying principles that govern the human body and the natural world. His approach was revolutionary and helped pave the way for modern scientific methods. By studying the body firsthand, Leonardo was able to make discoveries that had never been made before. For example, he was the first person to describe the function of the small intestine, and he made detailed observations about the human circulatory system. These discoveries were not only groundbreaking for their time, but they also informed Leonardo's art by giving him an even deeper understanding of the human form. The application of scientific principles to art was a radical idea during the Renaissance, but Leonardo's dedication to realism and accuracy pushed him to new heights. His paintings, sculptures, and drawings are still studied by artists today for their incredible attention to detail and lifelike quality. By combining his artistic talent with his scientific knowledge, Leonardo was able to create works of art that have stood the test of time. However, Leonardo's talents weren't limited to the arts alone. He was also a brilliant engineer and scientist. One of his most famous projects was a mechanical knight designed to fight in battle. The machine was controlled by a human operator and could move and attack using levers and pulleys. While it was never finished, Leonardo's design was incredibly advanced for its time and showed his mastery of engineering principles. Another famous invention of Leonardo's was a flying machine inspired by the wings of a bird or an insect. Again, while it was never built, Leonardo's design showed a deep understanding of aerodynamics and the principles of flight. These inventions and many others are just a small sample of Leonardo's incredible mind. He was a true polymath, someone who is highly skilled in a wide range of subjects. This was not only because of his natural abilities, but also because of his insatiable curiosity and dedication to learning. Leonardo was constantly asking questions and seeking to understand the world around him. He was also incredibly creative and innovative, always coming up with new ideas and ways of doing things. This is perhaps best exemplified by his approach to art. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Leonardo was not content with simply copying what he saw. Instead, he wanted to understand the underlying principles that govern the human body and the natural world. This approach was revolutionary and helped pave the way for modern scientific methods. Unfortunately, not everything Leonardo worked on would become famous. For example, he submitted a design for the facade of the Milan Cathedral, but it wasn't chosen. However, his knowledge of proportion and symmetry likely influenced the final design and other architects, since his plans were well thought out and meticulously planned. Even though he may not have gotten this particular project, his knowledge of proportion and symmetry was still important. In addition to his scientific and engineering pursuits, Leonardo was also a prolific writer and thinker. His notebooks contain a wide range of topics, from philosophy to geology to optics. He was also a musician and is said to have played the lyre. Overall, Leonardo da Vinci was truly a Renaissance man, excelling in a wide range of disciplines and making significant contributions to each of them. His curiosity, creativity, and dedication to learning make him an inspiration to this day. However, Leonardo's genius didn't go unrecognized, and it was this that led him to have one of the longest periods of patronage in history. In 1482, he wrote a letter to Ludovico Sforza, the Duke of Milan, proposing his services as an engineer and scientist. The letter is considered to be one of the greatest ever written and showcases Leonardo's talents and accomplishments. Impressed by Leonardo's reputation and qualifications, Sforza offered him a position as a military engineer and granted him a noble title. This marked the beginning of a 17-year period of patronage in Milan, during which Leonardo created some of his most famous works of art and engineering. During his time in Milan, Leonardo was commissioned to create a number of important works of art, including the famous Last Supper and several paintings of the Virgin Mary. He also continued his studies of anatomy and engineering, and he made significant contributions to the fields of science. Leonardo's military engineering projects included designing fortifications and weapons. He also worked on a number of architectural projects, including the design of a canal and a redesign of the city's fortifications. Leonardo's contributions to Milan were significant, and he was well regarded by the court. Unfortunately, as is often the case with genius individuals, Leonardo's unique personality and sometimes difficult nature caused him to clash with his patrons. Eventually, he fell out of favor with Sforza, and he was forced to flee Milan in 1499. Despite this, Leonardo's legacy in Milan remains strong, and he is considered to be one of the city's most famous residents. His contributions to art and science helped to shape the course of history, and his influence can still be seen in Milan today. Even though Leonardo didn't finish most of his inventions, his notebooks show us just how creative his mind was, and allow us to see how he applied science to everyday problems. He was curious about everything and wanted to understand how the world worked. This led him to make some incredible discoveries and inventions that changed the world forever. So if you want to be like Leonardo, then start by being curious about everything and never stop asking questions. Who knows, maybe you'll end up inventing the next big thing. And now for a little secret. Did you notice that the whole time I was talking, I was moving my hands a lot? It's because I am the most talented human in history. Just kidding, but seriously, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, make sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you next time.